Alright, I'm going to talk about Season 5 of Highlander. Um, this perhaps is, to me, not. It's definitely not the best of the series, quite obviously, as I've stated before, but there were some things I did tolerate about it. Season 4 introduced a lot of the magical elements into it, like the crystal that could make the immortal stronger and the cleansing cave and all that, but here we get the introduction of we did have psychic powers that were introduced actually in season 2 when that woman had the vision of Tessa's death, but here that's expanded upon a whole lot more. It doesn't entirely rule season 5, but it's prevalent in the first episode, but it doesn't really start entirely getting out of hand until the last episode of this season, and it carries on into season 6. The first episode of the series, which, I've been commenting on the first episodes a lot, but they always do make quite an impression if I decide to follow if I decided to follow the seasons or not. Season 5 introduces Cassandra. She's a 3,000-year-old immortal who actually is revealed later on to have a connection to Mythos and actually regard him with a lot of enmity. She has the ability to, or what's the word I'm looking for? She's a seer. Like she can predict the future and all that. She actually is revealed to have met Duncan when he was about 13 or 14. She was a witch who lived outside of his village, and Duncan came across her, and she prophesies that he would be the one to save the world from a terrible evil. And the first episode introduces this immortal who apparently is supposed to be this terrible evil. I forget what his name is, but he has the ability to hypnotize his opponents. And Duncan faces off against him, and the fight that finally happens was completely anticlimactic for me. But it's an alright episode. The one thing that kind of I found incredibly fucking hilarious about that is that Cassandra had actually premeditated sleeping with Duncan after all that was over. It was like a plan that was 400 years in the making. It would be kind of creepy in a ways, but it's still kind of funny at the same time. I actually have to bitch about Richie. Now, Richie was kind of a character that he was annoying at some points, but I guess that he would grow on you in some ways. The guy made a lot of mistakes. I mean, like, he was only immortal for 3 years after he died the first time, and eventually he's taken out here at the end of season 5, but leading up to the end of it all, he's completely loyal to Duncan, but he is a little bitch. I will not lie about that. There is, like, not once but twice does Richie come running back to Duncan because he's gotten in trouble. If you remember at the end of, or the last time you saw Richie in season 4, he was on his knees about to be beheaded by Duncan with the Dark Quickening. And I would have found that a much more dignified end to him. And it would have made the whole Dark Quickening thing that much more menacing, but unfortunately it didn't happen. Richie fled, completely disillusioned by everything that Mac had taught him, and begins going on this little headhunting spree for about a year. And he comes running like a little bitch back to Duncan because his sword got broke by this guy named Haresh Clay, and Haresh wants revenge against Richie because he killed his lover, some other immortal, I think. I can't remember what his name was. And Richie comes running back to Duncan for help, and Duncan, being the Boy Scout that he is, goes to defend this guy, but has a hard time facing this guy down himself because he killed his mentor named Graham Ash. And they actually make an interesting thing on it because Graham Ash was actually killed by Haresh Clay, but he was Juan Ramirez's teacher, which was kind of interesting. And they make the whole teacher my teacher thing and all that shit. The second time that Richie has to go running back to Duncan is when he has quickening, but it's not really a light quickening per se, where there's a change in personality. But another guy that he killed wound up being the husband to this woman that Richie had started seeing, and the whole thing was that anytime that Richie was around this woman, this guy that he killed, his power would come out in him, and the attraction that Richie felt for her was actually her husband's spirit coming out in him. And that was a completely fucking stupid episode to me. There's a third instance that also still shows how naive Richie is when he meets a fake Mythos, actually played by Ron Perlman, who gives a hell of a performance in this. I really like that episode. You have another one where Duncan deals with an enemy of his past who has actually got a gang of young immortals running around thinking that he's God. And his and Duncan's past is kind of interesting. I actually wish that they had expanded on this a little bit more for the season, but unfortunately that never did happen. That was a damn good episode. And then we get down to the Four Horsemen in here, and particularly an aspect of Mythos' past, which was never fully explored until now, and it's a damn good one. Apparently Mythos used to run around with 3 other immortals back in like ancient Mesopotamia and all that, and he was death among all these immortals dressed up like the Four Horsemen, and they would go around just killing and everything. And Duncan finds out about this from Cassandra, and he keeps pressing him and pressing him, and the confession that he gives to Duncan actually shows that this guy, he tried to play himself off as a changed guy, but you always wondered why he stood back withdrawn. Here's the reason why, and that entire confession that he gives to Duncan at the end of it is enough to thrill anybody who is a fan of this character. And ultimately, Mac and Mythos' friendship is put to the test throughout all this. That's a good episode. When they introduced Kronos, who was the leader of the Four Horsemen in this, he was only in the present of the series for a very short time, but apparently the actor who played him became so popular that they brought him back towards the end of the season with the whole the demon thing, which I hated, and they presented him later on in the 6th season too. The whole thing with Ahriman, alright, like, apparently there is this evil demon that only comes around once every 5,000 to 6,000 years, and Duncan is the one immortal that is chosen to be plagued by this thing, and apparently the only one that can stop him somehow. And they took like 3 episodes to drag this out. I have no explanation as to why they decided to grow on this, but apparently they did. And I actually wish that they had left this series off like the last episode of the series be in this season, which was the Modern Prometheus, which also deals with Mythos, but actually reveals a fight that he had in his past to be the inspiration for Mary Shelley to write Frankenstein, which I thought was a really good episode. But ultimately, the episode Archangel, along with 2 others from the first 2 from the 6th season, is ultimately what was the start of the damnation for this series, because the magic wasn't the only thing that killed it. Ultimately, this season is good. I can't say everything about it is great, but it definitely has some damn good episodes, so go check it out. Because I promise you, this, which I actually have thrown season 6 out, except for the last disc, because I'm honest with you, this series should have stopped here on a dignified note.